everybody. Welcome back to Pain-Free Creations, Coaching and Conversations, where we do all three in a short amount of time. I'm Aubrey Payne, and today we are going to start talking about center and small group management and organization. This is a series of videos and a collection of resources that are all going to help encourage teachers to take some leaps of faith and try some new things out, and just really share ideas on what's working for you in the classroom, what worked for me, and what research is really showing. So if you are at a point in your classroom where you're ready for a change, or you're looking for new ideas on how to organize or manage or work with challenging behaviors during centers, then this series of videos and collection of resources is perfect for you. So let's start with part one, the organizational aspect. Let's check it out. More specifically, today we are going to talk about the part one of the video series in resource collection, which is really just the overall setup and organization. I'm using a Nearpod lesson just to show that my loyalty and love for Nearpod can be used and utilized for anything that you might need. All right, so we're going to talk today about first what has worked for me. So I started out my first years of teaching with a really controlled mindset for centers. I had a belief that the kids, they needed structure, and they needed specific things that they needed to do every day, and that I had to choose those for them. As research has continued to grow throughout the years, so has my belief in teaching and how I let students do their centers. So for me, over the years, I've just been following just that thought of student choice. Student choice is really more than just choosing a topic. It's about empowering students and through the entire learning process. So this is true in the classrooms. You can see it when you try it. It's a scary thought to change from teacher-driven and teacher-controlled to letting students have a say and let them drive their centers and their instruction. It really can get uncomfortable in the beginning, but then you see how much the kids enjoy it, how much the behaviors decrease, and how much not chaos happens in the classroom. So we're just going to kind of dive in with how my centers had changed and how I used them in the classroom, and we'll go from there. So one of the big things I wanted to emphasize is that, yes, students of all ages can do this. When I was coaching, I had a lot of pushback from teachers saying that the younger kids cannot. They lack self-control. But really, it's all about your organization, your expectations, and the belief that your students can do this that really affect if your students can. So it can work for kindergarten, it can work for first, it can work for second, and it can work for all the older grades. So this is something that you have to kind of have with a mindset. Eliminate the sentence that your students cannot do this. They can't handle choosing, because they can. And that's the start of transitioning from teacher-driven centers to student choice centers. So this is how I've organized my centers to be centered around student choice. This might not be everybody's cup of tea, but this is at least one idea that you can keep in your toolbox. And if you decide that maybe you want to try it out because what you're doing right now isn't working, give it a try, and you got nothing to lose. So this is on this slide. This is just kind of a layout of how I go about organizing my centers. So my prep is I print my desired center labels out for math and reading centers. I have two sets. I have a simple center label, and then I have one with instructions on what to do. I use the ones with the instructions at the beginning of the year, and then I switch to the simple ones that don't have the instructions once the students have mastered the routine and understand what they're supposed to do at each center. Then I laminate them and I cut them, and then I use the magnetic tape strips and I turn them into magnets. So then one of the years I had I didn't have time to do numbers, so I just bought just the circle with numbers already on them. You can do that, or you can use You can print out numbers, laminate them, cut them, and put the magnet strips on them. So I use these on my whiteboard. So I save my smartboard for my behavior management aspects of centers, which we will get into in the next video. But I use my whiteboard for my centers. So I start in them. So now we know how I prep them. Then how I use them. So I start in the morning when students begin their morning work. Our schedule starts out with morning work and doing attendance, breakfast, lunch choice, and then we do morning meeting, and then we go straight to specials. Right after specials is when we have reading. So in the morning, before the kids get there, I have all of their numbers under the center label iReady. iReady is not a center, but it is where everybody starts. So when students are done with their morning work, they will then move to iReady and start their 10 minutes of their iReady lessons for the day. So everybody's number's under there. So when they finish their morning work, they move their number, they keep their number under iReady, and they begin working on their iReady reading at their desk. So then after specials and we do our reading whole group, I move everybody's number, if it has not already been moved because they finished their morning work, everybody's number goes under iReady reading. So then I move group 1, 2, 3, and so on, depending on how many students I have, under their assigned reading center. So they stay at one center the rest of the reading block. It avoids transitional issues, and I provide enough options and choices in that center so that they have enough to do. So then I will start with small groups. Once students finish their daily 10 minutes of iReady reading at their desk, they silently bring it up to me and they flash their screen to me quickly. I give them a thumbs up. They can move on to they put their iPad face down on their desk and move their number to their designated center with their group number. And they begin doing their center work. Thumbs down, they didn't complete their 10 minutes and they need to go back to their desk and keep working. Yes, there are students that still try to get away with not doing their minutes and think that I will just send them on their way. Nope. Thumbs down, go back to your desk and get those minutes done first. During centers, if the student or students get too loud or not following center expectations, I give them only one verbal or nonverbal warning. Sometimes I can just give them a look. They know for some reason they know in their head to look at me. If I can give them a look and they stop, that's all I need. Sometimes it has to be a verbal warning. If the behavior continues, then I have them move their number back under iReady reading, and they have to go back to their desk and silently work on iReady. Even if they already have their 10 minutes, they're just going to keep working. Once I'm in a spot in my small groups where I can go and process with them about why they had to go back and kind of guide them through a discussion of what the expectations are and what they need to do. If I feel that they're ready to try again and they feel like they're ready to try again, then I will let them move their number back to their center and try again. And this is just like a quick rundown of what I do. I will go way more in depth on my next videos. So this is still a continue on how I use it. So basically, if a student or student can't handle centers or follow the expectations, they work on iReady reading or math if it's math time at their desk, or they can, if it's reading, they can silent read at their desk until they can show me with their actions that they can make the right choice. There are some students who prefer to silent read over iReady, so I do give them a little bit of a choice there. Sometimes it's necessary to have a student work on their iReady lessons in a chair next to me. There are some who either moving to their desk, having to stop centers and move back to their desk can get them upset. It brings them a little bit of peace and calm doing it next to me. So that's fine with me. I'm okay with it. Sometimes it's necessary that they have to do their iReady lessons, the whole reading block for a couple days, just because they still are having a very hard time with their self-control. And again, that's okay. I adapt to whatever is necessary and needed. So if more than a few students are struggling with following center expectations, then this would be a moment where, as a teacher, you pause working with small groups for a day or two, or however long is needed. This is a super important part of getting your management for centers, is that if it is not working more than just a handful of students, are not following your expectations, then that's where you need to pause, stop, and start from the beginning again. Because if you just blow over and keep on like, I got to get small groups done, I got to do it, you're never going to be able to let your students work independently while you do small groups. So you need to make sure that your students can handle being in their center groups first. You need to review expectations and as a class, participate with appropriate center behavior while you walk around and observe the whole time. Once students seem to understand and seem ready to try centers again without you walking around, you can start meeting with small groups again. So this is important. Like I said, it's important in all management in your classroom. If they're not following the expectations of whatever you have in place in the classroom, then you need to stop and then re-go over that until they have it right. So if it's needed, you can have all students start out on iReady reading or math, whatever subject it is, like usual, and then allow the students who have demonstrated self-control and that they can follow center expectations. You can allow those students to go and move their number to any desired center. So this is something that I do sometimes. If it's just one of those wild days, I won't do group numbers. I'll remove group 1, 2, 3, 4, and I will just, if there are students who have gotten their 10 minutes done for the day and they have shown me that they can handle doing a center, then I will give them the opportunity to move their number to any desired center that's up on the board. They can move their number there. And my only rule is there can only be 4 students at each center at a time. So if there are 4 students in Osmo, then another student would have to pick a different center besides Osmo to go to. So, and then those who still are having a hard time, you can have them do iReady at their desk until they're ready for centers, or you can have them select a desired center to go to from what's left once they have shown that they're ready. And they can choose a center if they get their minutes done. And if you're okay with not doing small groups that day, you can then walk around and observe those students who are still having a hard time. So you can continue to remind them about the expectations and help them practice. So I always, when I am doing group numbers, I move the group numbers clockwise 1 over each new day. So they stay at one center, the whole center block. And that is just what works for me. So then I also use mini app magnets. So I print out tiny little squares of all of the apps that I will let the students use throughout the year. I can always put these on the board so the students know exactly what apps they're allowed to get on. So I will put whatever apps I want them to use for the day for each center above that center subject. And I have a picture I'm going to show you in a second. They can use that app. So this kind of stops any unnecessary interruptions, especially when I'm in small groups. I don't have students constantly asking, what apps can I use? What apps can I get on in the iPad center? It's already up on the board. They don't need to ask me because it's there. Okay, so here's a picture of my centers I use on my whiteboard. And this is at the beginning of the year, like I said. Or if I have a classroom one year who really just needs that constant reminder, I might leave them up all year. It's really just kind of depends on what kind of class you have each year. But so on here, I have WordWork, Reading Corner, Osmo, iPads, Writing, and iReady Reading. I have my instructions for each one. So in my centers, I usually have my 3 drawers for each center, except iPads I don't have that for. iReady is not a center. This is if kids are still working on their lessons. So student number 1 and number 3 are still working on completing their 10 minutes. So they haven't gone to a center yet. But then these are my centers, and I have a 3-level drawer for WordWork. I have a 3-level drawer for reading. So the other ones, they don't need that. So, and then I have instructions for each one. They have to work on drawer number 1 first. Once they complete an activity in drawer 1, they can choose an activity from drawer 2 and then an activity from drawer 3, and then they can do any of the activities in any of the drawers. So they still are provided a choice. It's a little bit of a structured choice. So I kind of still guiding them, but I have lots of options in each drawer for a little bit of a choice for them. And same with writing. Writing, a majority of it is all choice because I want them to enjoy writing. I want them to find the love for it. And they already have structured writing time during whole group writing. So during centers, it's really just continuing to support, encourage, and help them find that love for writing. So I just have a bunch of different writing activities, games, and prompts in each drawer. So that is how I organize at the beginning of the year, especially with my instructions and details. Then this is once they have mastered instructions, I have the same centers, but I don't have the instructions on them. But I do have apps that they can use in the centers. So for WordWork, we have our curriculum with CCC, the Center for Collaborative Classroom. They have their own app, which is WordWorks. And so they can do this app as one of the choices. And it works on whatever skill we've worked on in the past or what we're working on now. The Reading Corner, they have Epic as the only app they can use in the Reading Corner. Osmo, this is the only app they can use. For iPads, this day I chose only 3, but I have a whole bunch. I can just keep stacking them up however many for their choices. So for reading, they can do Prodigy Reading, Teacher Monster to Read, or Khan Academy Reading. And then for writing, after they're done doing one of the drawers, they can move and make their own story with animated characters on Toontastic. So I do provide choice. This, I can change the apps. I like having them as magnets because then I can change them based on what we're doing every day. Okay, so for math, I do centers differently. So you could do it the same way that you would do your reading centers and have your groups. I don't do group numbers. So once a student completes their independent practice page for their math lesson that day, then they put their pencil in their book, shut it, and put it to the side. Then they work on their daily 10 minutes for iReady math. And so all of their numbers should be under iReady. Once they're done, they show me non-verbally just like they do for reading. Here is where it is different. I provide them a choice. So once they've gotten their 10 minutes, they've gotten their thumbs up, then they can move their number under any center area that they desire. So the only rule is there can only be 4 students at a time. There can only be 4 students at a time at each center area, except for the iPads. It doesn't matter because the iPads are going to be at their desks. So students can also change and move their number as they decide to do a different math center. So students appreciate being able to choose and decide what they're able to do. And they also appreciate the fact that they can move as they wish. They have that freedom if they can handle it. And then I just followed the same behavior plan for math centers as I spoke about earlier, and I will get into more detail in the next video. So during this time, I will then call up groups of students, usually grouped by level, based on the topic that we are currently covering at that time. And then I'll have them bring their book and we go over their independent practice page and then the small group activity that comes with that lesson in our curriculum. This is the simplified version, and it is nice to have magnets because then just depending on the day, you have that flexibility. So you can choose what apps they can have and use. You could take a center away. This is also, you could add another center, really, like you could switch out whatever you want. And then this also is good for having these on your whiteboard is good for I'm done, now what? So if students finish something early, you can tell them to go choose a center and pick an activity from there, and they can put their number there. The numbers help keep the teacher informed on where each student is and what they should be working on at that time. So I have a quote at the top which kind of supports the fact that student choice and student-centered centers is where everybody is heading, and it seems to be more engaging. Student motivation increases when they have more choice in how they learn, more choice in what they've learned, and more choice on who they can learn with. So instead of teachers selecting a group, students get to pick, and they're not stuck in the same group every time. Overall, this is what works for me. But now I'm interested in what works for you. I would love to hear your thoughts on student choice-based centers and any comments and questions that you have about how I run mine. I also want to know how you run your centers. What works for you? This works for me. What works for you? Share that in the comments when you get a chance. Now I'm going to go over my creation that goes with my organization of how I do centers. Okay, so this is the actual document that is on Teachers Pay Teachers, and this is what I used. So in this resource, we have for both reading and math, pre-made center labels to go on the whiteboard, blank labels for customizing. So I have a link. You can go onto a Google Slide document and you can edit the labels if you are not wanting to use the ones that I already have made. I have the pre-made center labels with instructions. I have the small app icons. You can print out those pictures if you use the same apps as I do, or some of them. You can also customize on the Google Slides if you want to add your own little pictures of the apps that you use. Description of how I use the system, what I just went over in the video. Google Slide version, like I said. So then here's just a little quick preview of some of the things. And so now we have the pre-made center labels to go on the whiteboard, blank labels. So basically what I just said. So topics and resources coming soon to this collection, classroom management, behavior management plan. This goes deeper into detail. This was just kind of a quick description of what I do for centers. And then also center ideas. So what choices I provide in each center. These are things that I will cover in videos and resources to come. All right. So again, this is what we covered. We went through this, but now here's the examples again. You can zoom in and you can look. So then we have just a closer up visual of my visual examples of what and how I use it. So these are the group numbers if I use them, and then the numbers are for students. And the nice thing is you can reuse them. Since they're not student names, you can reuse them as however long they last. And then I have my apps on the top and you can switch them out. Everything is switched out because they are just magnets. I keep them organized in a nice little container that is also a magnet on the whiteboard. And then I also have a student job that they, at the end of the day, they put everything back in their little magnet containers so that we start fresh each day. So again, here they are. You can kind of get a better view of my instructions for each label. And then I have the actual labels for you to print and laminate if you're choosing to do the same center areas that I do. So WordWork, Reading Corner, Osmo. Some of you might not have an Osmo. If you do, definitely a great center to have. iPads, Writing, and iReady. So then my descriptions, again, these can be used if we just happen to be on the same plan here. If not, Google Slides you can edit on your own. But I leave these for everybody in case they want to do the exact same thing or if they want to have an example for them when they are creating theirs. So then there's the blank ones. Then I just have a bunch of different themes because I know, not everybody likes rainbows like I do. So I try to give a little variety to everybody's themes in their classroom. So then I have circle ones. I have, a teal, blue theme. We got pink, green, and then just a simple black, white, gray. And that thankfully can go with a majority of the themes of classrooms. And you have flowers. So then I have, this is my app options. So if you happen to use the same apps as me, then all you have to do is print, laminate, and cut, and then put magnets out in the back of them. So, and I can go again into detail with these when I go over the different choices for each center in my other videos for this series. So then I have math labels as well, my examples. And then we have close-up view. And then the blank labels, and then the different themes again for math. Then So then after the reading and math center labels, I have the student numbers and group numbers. So these are pre-made center numbers to go on the whiteboard, and I also have blank ones for customizing, and those will be on the Google Slides. So I tried to go up as high as I could. Then you have group numbers for the rainbow theme. Here's just some rainbow numbers, goes to 24. Here's just basic black and white with group numbers, and then you can customize them on Google Slides, donut and pink, cute. Then with the group numbers, and then some blue shiny sparkly stars, and then just so that you can find this resource at my store on Teachers Pay Teachers. I also have the link in the description and in the comments. Keep checking on my Teachers Pay Teachers store and YouTube channel for the next parts of this series and resource collection. We will be covering in the next ones behavior management during centers, choice options for each center, and more. Subscribe, like, and comment, and I will hope that you come and watch my next videos. Thanks so much. Then after